Now, in less than 24 hours, district assembly elections will be taking place across the country. However, threats of protests in some districts, cancellation in others, and a restraining order is casting a negative shadow over Tuesday's elections. Could these indications breed violence and potential instability at the district level? Critical questions are also being asked about how aspirants have gone against the rules by openly affiliating with political parties. Must this partisan affiliation be allowed to continue? What can be done to make Ghanaians more interested in the district level elections? Is a lack of interest a reflection of how poorly organized things are at the district level? This is today's big story with me, Stephen Anti. With just about a day to go, an aggrieved former assembly member of Western Okrom in the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis, Samuel Kwesi Anderson, has secured an injunction against the conduct of the district level elections there. He was disqualified from seeking re-election by the Electoral Commission on grounds of falsifying his academic qualification. The EC claims he stated on his nomination form that he is an A-level certificate holder when actually he's not. But Mr. Anderson, who says he cannot be disqualified for a simple error, is asking the courts to compel the Electoral Commission to justify his disqualification. We're getting on the telephone line now his spokesperson, Charles Finn Thompson, who is on the telephone line now. Good evening, Mr. Finn Thompson, and thanks for joining us. Hello, good evening, Mr. Finn Thompson.
Good evening.
Now, your man, Mr. Anderson, is not happy that the EC disqualified him for stating that he had an A-level when, in fact, he only has an O-level. So, if he had all the time to complete his nomination and he didn't, why then should he now take the Electoral Commission to court, restraining them from conducting the elections?
We are doing this because we think EC is not fair to us. Why? Because when we saw that there is a mistake on the notice of pool, we went to their office and the district director said, "Oh, this is not anything big, so we should leave it like that."
I see.
Some few days after, we heard that some people are planning to send a petition. So we went there again, and the man said, "Oh, it's not going to be anything." A day after our second time of the visit, then they called us that there's some petition has been sent to him. So we went there.
Mr. Finn Thompson, let me understand a little clearly before we continue. You're saying that the EC's notice of poll had this error and you brought it to the attention of the Electoral Commission to change it before the time was due, and he didn't. On 2 occasions you went there and nobody did anything about it.
Yes, what it means is that the district director of EC, we went to him and we told him that we've seen this error. He said, "Oh, it's not going to be anything. It's something small." And then we went there for the second time. He said the same thing. And a day after our second visit, then he called us that there is a petition on his higher education qualification. We went there. We went there with all his certificates, and we also wrote a letter of correction to it. And after that, we didn't hear anything until Saturday around 1 p.m. Then they called that.
Right. So now that you have been to court, I know the right thing to do is to wait for an outcome. But the Sekondi Takoradi High Court has granted your injunction. So what next? What are you waiting for now? You're waiting for a decision to be made to correct it, or the disqualification to be withheld?
For now, we will go to court on Monday, I think. So when we go to court, our lawyers will come and their lawyers will come.
Right.
And whatever will be the outcome is what we're going to stand on it.
Right. Mr. Finn Thompson, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. Thanks very much for joining us. Mr. Charles Finn Thompson speaks for a former assembly member of the West Tanochrome who is unhappy that the EC has disqualified him. He has actually secured an injunction from the High Court in Sekondi Takoradi to put tomorrow's elections in that area on hold. Now, meanwhile, the elections have also been cancelled in Nkranza North and South for security reasons, and also in Bimbilla in the Nanumba North District of the Northern Region. Some residents are threatening to boycott the elections there. They say the decision of the District Security Council, DISEC, to shift the curfew hours to 7 p.m., 6 a.m. instead of 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. for the sake of the election is an indication that they value the elections more than the people. We've not been able to read the DC there to gauge the mood in the town ahead of tomorrow, but we do have on the line an aspirant of the area of the Alurani electoral area who is called Idi Abu Mumuni. Mr. Mumuni, good evening, and we're grateful you could join us. Hello, Mr. Mumuni.
Hello.
So how are you, sir?
Fine, thank you, sir.
Good. I know tomorrow you are hoping that when you go to the poll, a lot of people will turn up to vote.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Okay, speaker now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you
Good.
now.
I'm saying that tomorrow is an election day.
Yes, please.
And you are expecting many people to come and vote for you.
Yeah.
But in Bimbilla, the people say they are not happy that DISEC shifted the curfew hours to 7 p.m., which means that they see the election more important than the people. What will you do if you go and most of the people you're expecting to vote for you don't turn up?
Yeah. For that one, we have to speak to them so that maybe DISEC will speak back and look at the issue of the curfew.
So
you can look at the issue of the curfew so that it will favor the people, because their economic activities is going backwards, and for that matter, they think that the election is more important than their farming, their businesses, and other activities,
right, so,
other economic
so
activities.
in other words, you support the people, that you're also appealing to the authorities to consider reviewing the curfew generally.
Yes. We are also saying that if the people could review the curfew, if they could review the curfew, not because of the election, but generally they review the curfew for the people to go about doing their activities, their economic activities effectively.
Right. So, Mr. Mumuni, are you able to tell me what the situation is currently in Bimbilla? How is the situation like?
No, as of now, the situation is calm. But according to people, they are saying that they should look at the curfew and review it for them so that they can be doing their activities.
Right.
This is what they are saying. They are saying that they should review it for them so that their economic activities can go on successfully.
Right. Thanks.
You know, most of us are farmers, and our farms are far. Yeah, you can walk from 20 miles, 18 miles to your farm, and before you will come back, you see that the curfew hours will be
affecting you.
Will pass, and you cannot enter into the town again. And you are supposed you hello, and you will sleep
I can hear
at a nearby village or at the farm.
Right, okay.
Instead of coming to your home.
Right, Mr. Mumuni, we are grateful. Thanks very much. So you have echoed the point of the residents who are calling for a relaxation, a general relaxation of the curfew hours, not because there is an election, but the economic activities of the people are being affected. But there are also security concerns on the ground there in Bimbilla and other parts of the country. But let's get onto the telephone line and speak to ASP Ebenezer Tete, who is the public relations officer of the Northern Regional Police Command, to find out the security arrangements in the north generally ahead of tomorrow's district level elections there. Good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
So we, like many other citizens, are concerned that the district level elections might turn violent in areas where there have been threats of protest and where people are threatening that if the curfew hours are not reviewed, they might not turn up to vote. I need to find out from you generally how the police is prepared for tomorrow's district level elections, considering, I mean, the many flashpoints in the northern region.
Thank you very much. In terms of our preparedness, logistically and manpower-wise, we are prepared adequately for tomorrow's election. We have 2,386 polling stations.
Right.
That the elections will be taking place tomorrow all over the region. And we are deploying same numbers to police the polling stations tomorrow. And in addition to that, we'll have a reserve force that will be there to be called upon quickly to respond.
So it means that you're not leaving any stone unturned. You're not underestimating the potential for violence in any of these areas.
Exactly. We are covering every inch of grass tomorrow. And we are deploying enough men to cover all the ground. So no polling station will be left, unmanned.
But ASP, let me ask you, are there particular flashpoints or spots where you feel that you're keeping more men there for fear that there could be violence erupting, more likely to erupt at those places?
Yes, the district level elections are not political. It is apolitical, but just like the general elections, we have identified some potential flashpoints, and we have made arrangements. We have strategized and made arrangements to, ensure that those places that we have identified as a potential flashpoints, there will not be any problems there.
Any problems
we have
there.
factored all those things in our security arrangements, and then we hope that with the kind of elaborate plan that we have in place, with the support from the people, we'll have an incident-free elections tomorrow.
Right. Let me take you to Bimbilla, where we know that there is a curfew in Bimbilla from 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, as a result of the elections, the curfew hours have been reviewed upwards by 3 hours. So the curfew is supposed to start at 7 p.m. and finish off at 6 a.m. What particular contingency plans do you have on the ground? One, to ensure that the curfew hours are strictly adhered to, even though there's relaxation, and then whilst voting hours are ongoing, the criminal minds or hands wouldn't pass underground to foment trouble.
Yes, all the concerns that we have raised, we have factored all those things in our security plan. And it is exactly so. It is because we want the people of Bimbilla, just like any other areas. In the northern region, we have some places where curfew have been imposed. And all those areas, the curfew period has been reviewed. Nankpandu is one, Bimbilla is one, and Bunkugu Yoyo is the other. So after the voting, we expect that the people, as usual, will come to the polling stations and observe the counting process. But because we don't have a normal situation in Bimbilla, we expect that they will respect the curfew hours. And when it is time for them to go indoors, they will comply without resisting the orders of the security on the ground. Because they are there to ensure that, one, there's law and order, and then to also ensure that people will not take advantage of the elections and foment troubles there. So we have factored all those things in, and we hope we will be able to police and ensure that there's calm in Bimbilla during, before, during, and after the election.
Right. Thanks very much, ASP Ebenezer Tete. We're grateful for your time. Ebenezer Tete is the public relations officer of the Northern region speaking there. Now, elections are expected to be non-partisan, but that's not what it is. It does appear that many aspirants are openly affiliating themselves to political party. Ebenezer Okwe, an aspirant of the Mokose electoral area in Accra, is a leading member of a political party. He spoke to our reporter Jahu Nyan, justifying why he cannot be compromised even though he is affiliated to a political party. Let's watch.
This assembly election, almost all the candidates that are contesting, they all belong to a particular party.
Do you belong to a particular party?
Yes, I am. I am a constituency organizer of New Patriotic Party, Okankwe South, here as you are speaking to me. I am the MPP constituency organizer here, so I belong to a party.
You don't see it as a conflict of interest?
No, I would say no, because when I'm going to the campaign, I'm not using the New Patriotic Party symbols nor our colors.
Let's look at your banner. It is not blue, but it looks very close to blue, red, and white.
Yes, you are right. That's my favorite color. I have 3 favorite colors, the red, the white, and the blue. But this does not belong to an NPP color because there's no NPP symbol in it. So it's not an NPP color. That's my favorite color that I used to design my banner.
But doesn't it feel as if perhaps you are giving people a sort of silent signal that going for you means going for the party that you also represent in another capacity?
Oh, it's no, because the ideas that I'm bringing on board is what people should buy, but not in terms of the party aspects.
Right, very interesting viewpoints there. We'll be exploring that when we get Professor Amin Al-Hassan joining us on the telephone lines. But a former assemblyman for the Otating electoral area here in Accra also spoke to our reporter Fred Smith about the politicization of the district level elections and reveals how he had to defect from the NDC to join the MPP in order to get support of his then MP Kwame Bartels.
As a third member, if you are there, you come and meet MP in the area. MP is politically. If the party you are a member you belong to is not aligned with the MP you are going to work with, your work will be difficult. Formerly, I was with NDC.
Okay.
When I diverted to MPP. By then, the MP in the area is Kwame Bartels. You know, so I work effectively with him.
Because you belong to the
I'm not the party working with. So it's politically. It's politics.
So
right, let's get Professor Amin Al-Hassan, who is a senior scholar at the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security. Good evening, Prof.
Yeah, good evening, Steve.
Now, I'm fine, thank you. It's interesting how the district level elections have become politicized over the years. There are key concerns that the active involvement of politicians is actually a violation of the rule on district level elections. Quickly, do you see this as a threat to the success or otherwise of the district level elections?
Not really. This is a case where the laws seem to be in conflict with what the majority of common practice is about. In actual fact, let us remember that it is the same electorate who chooses assembly members, it is the same electorate who chooses parliamentarians and the president of the republic. And basically, it is difficult to separate this idea that district level elections are non-partisan. And I think what the framers of the law wanted to avoid was a situation where the local governments will be devoid of party politics. But this is an impossible request, demand on the citizens. Basically, every electoral process in this country, insofar as it is dependent on the same electorate, the same constituencies, the thinking will move away from presidential to parliamentary to the district level elections based on partisan lines. And it is not something that we can wish away, much as the law fronts on that. It is time for us to ask whether the law might something that we have to look at, not really the practice. The practice is that in practice we know that mostly I have been going around and all the candidates have been seen are people who are affiliated to one political party or another.
But don't you see that as problematic? Possibly that could be a reason why there is disinterest. There is total lack of interest at the grassroots on district assembly elections? If, for example, an MPP candidate or an MPP youth organizer, for example, is contesting for the district level elections in an area which is purely an NDC stronghold, you would expect that interest will be low, and it will mean that there will be less participation at the grassroots levels.
I really don't see that possibility or that way of how things are. What we should probably start looking at is to ask ourselves, what are the stakes at the district level election? What are the stakes? What is the position of an assemblyman? What are the stakes in terms of resource mobilization, resource access, and resource distribution? MPs are very important. The presidency is very important because they are very ample, certain sizable level of resource mobilization and resource distribution. Assembly members are simply unpaid representative of the people at the local level. What is the assembly's budget? Assemblies, we have come to realize, local government level are really waiting for some transfer from central government. So basically what we are saying is that I think the interest in district level elections are low precisely because people do not really come to think that much as we want an assemblyman, it's not really like an MP with a lot of resources to distribute. And I think that is one of the factors. Now, secondly, the idea that because it is non-partisan, people are not interested, or simply put, because we know that, for example, a certain area is predominantly NDC, why do you have to go there and contest? I think that that's not really the case. I have seen people contest in strongholds that are belonging to the opposition, to the other political parties. So I really think that the issue is more about the level at which assemblies have resources to distribute. What is the budget of assemblies? Is it really important that I'm an assemblyman and I can make a difference? People don't really think that assembly members are really those that are going to be distributing development. They at best are lobbyists at the local level to help bring some development. But I don't think that really it is because it has become too partisan. That is why people are not interested in it.
Right. Professor Amin Al-Hassan, we'll have you hold. We're joined on the other telephone line by Dr. Agri Darko, who is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, who is joining us now. Good evening, sir, Dr. Agri Darko.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on such a short notice. Now, lack of interest. Let's explore the lack of interest further. Professor Amin has raised critical issues about the fact that the politicization, the aspirants being political, does not necessarily mean that interest will be low in the areas. Do you feel that the NCCE, for example, and the Electoral Commission have not done much education on the ground to whip up interest in the district level elections?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I just once again, good evening to your listeners. A number of issues.
Right, I think we're having challenges with Dr. Agri Darko, who is still on the line. Doc, we're not hearing you. If you could reposition yourself so we can get a clearer service. Right, this is today's big story. We still have Professor Amin Al-Hassan, who is a senior scholar at the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security, on the other line, and Dr. Agri Darko from the University of Ghana, political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, is on the line.
Yeah.
Let's see. Doctor.
You said you couldn't hear me?
Yes, sir. Dr. Agri Darko.
Yes.
Yeah, we totally lost you. I'm not sure what happened, but if you can speak again. We were raising concerns about the role of the Electoral Commission, the role of the National Commission on Civic Education, and whipping up interest in the district level elections. You have some suggestions?
Yes, a number of variables will explain perhaps the lack of interest. For instance, when people vote, what precisely are they looking for? Fundamentally, we operate in what I call patron-client kind of politics. So we are looking for an economic mediator, for instance, somebody who can mediate between us at the local level, the grassroots level, and perhaps the center for some of the public goods, the distribution of the public goods. So the constituents or the local area can get a fair share of the national cake, as it were. So we want to see whether indeed the assembly members, for instance, have the capacity to be able to mediate and play that critical role. That's one important factor you have to look at. if you look at the nature, you like, power is concentrated in the presidency to the extent that even when assemblies have their own development plan, among others, because of the relationship between what we call a center-local relationship, the issue of the common fund, the role of the Ministry of Local Government Rural Development, the role of maybe the Bank of Ghana and all these, of course, the common fund administrator, the role of Parliament in all of these, will even, of course, and even the role of the National Development Planning Commission, all these so-called central, bodies, institutions of state, have some domineering influence over even the ability of the district assembly to be able to decide what indeed is good for their citizenry. You understand?
Yeah.
Even though you may have your own plans as an assembly, your own policies and program must fit into what the unitary state Ghana will want. And that is decisive. And so when it comes to the elections, the real issue will be the presidency and perhaps even the role of the MP, among others. They are very important. That's one variable you need to look at. The second issue is the continued fragmentation of our district assemblies.
Right.
We've created so many district assemblies, sometimes for political expediency, not necessarily for the economic viability. So are they able to generate enough resources, for instance, to mitigate, to really intervene as far as development is concerned at the grassroots level?
Right, Dr. Agredako, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. I'm afraid that's all time will allow us. And Professor Amin Alhassan, I'll give you the final remark. As we prepare for the district level elections tomorrow, there are concerns, security concerns in places like Bimbilla. There being an injunction on West Tanochrome elections because a former assembly member who is seeking re-election is not happy. Way forward, how can we ensure that future elections are devoid of all these mishaps? Professor Amin Alhassan.
Thank you,
Yes,
Stephen. I think that this response has to do with only the district, or are you talking about the general elections generally?
No, district level elections generally.
Yeah, I think we have been practicing district level elections for some time now. It is time for us to revisit the very laws that we carved out to organize assembly elections and to bring assemblies into being. When we started district level elections, we had this idea that they were supposed to be nonpartisan. It is time to realize that assemblies are basically economic entities, and their management will require a certain level of expertise that our current laws will not allow. We need to revise. We need to rethink the legal framework under which assemblies operate, revise them and change them, and simply allow open competitive politics even to the election of the district executives, and assemblies will now run their jurisdictions as if they are businesses. That is how they can raise revenue. That's how they can properly allocate resources and bring about development at the local level.
Right. Professor Amin, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. Thanks very much for your time on today's big story. That's where we end.